Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Turner. I'm the CEO and founder here at NEXL, the #1 no data entry CRM for law firms. Today, I have a special guest. It's Christoph H, is the managing partner of law firm Change Consulting, and we are talking today about the secrets of a successful law firm partnership. And Christoph, I think it's best for you to introduce yourself. You've written books before, you're really in that space, you're helping law firms across Europe, specialized, I think, in the German-speaking market, a little bit more so, with their strategies, with law firm culture. You've written the 2 books, what I've seen, which was Partner Remuneration in Law Firms and Law Firm Strategies for this 21st Century. I think those are the 2 books I found on LinkedIn, which I saw you have written. So how about you give us an introduction of yourself, what you do, and yeah, what do you specialize in? Perfect.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. Thanks for having me. Yes, well, it's a bit strange because I was a lawyer and I ended up in this position now, probably because I was a company consultant right after doing law. And the perspective as a company consultant is you look at the whole firm, right? Mm-hmm. Well, as a lawyer, you look very much at specific legal aspects of a transaction or whatever. So when I became a lawyer, I was suddenly so surprised to see my clients come with legal demands, and I took a step back and looked at the company they represented or the businesses they wanted to enter, whatever. And I realized that, well, maybe there are other issues which are more important. And I realized actually I have more of a brain of a consultant than of a lawyer. So I changed back to become a law firm consultant, right? That was in 1997. And I then worked from 2000 to 2005 with American and English and all those transatlantic transactions with the mergers between US and UK law firms, with especially German ones and other European ones. So that's a bit my background. And I realized that where law firms really have an issue is to change. Yeah. And this means that the partnership itself, the whole partnership, must be ready and accept change if they want to move on. So that was a bit my background history. So I started specializing in how does a law firm as such change, not just small aspects, but the general attitude of the partnership, the culture, etc. How can this evolve with the help of a consultant? So that's basically my perspective.
That's amazing. That's really good. So Christoph, I think you've mentioned already something really important. Law firms struggle with change. Why is that?
Well, every organization struggles to change. So partnerships, law firms are no different because the way they operate for a certain time gives stability. Everybody knows what to do, right? So when there is competitive pressure or they merge or whatever, they suddenly need to leave that space which is safe and secure and go into the unknown. Yeah. And this creates always tensions. And this makes for every kind of organization the change difficult. And partnerships, law firm partnerships, are no different in this respect. What is special is that they are a partnership. So you don't have a top-down kind of announcement, we are going to change. You need to have all those partners to agree on the change needed. And this is actually the particular challenge I face every day in my work.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think that is probably the biggest challenge, actually aligning the partnership. So what are some of the things that you see or what you suggest law firms to do to help them with that alignment piece? Like, what can you do to make that alignment work?
Well, the biggest challenge I always find is where is the case for change? What exactly is the case for change? And do we agree as a partnership on the case for change? So this is, as you know, lawyers are very good in arguing. So they start by questioning the need for change trying to understand whether there is one or not. But out of the dialectic way of arguing, always taking the opposite side, they're very good and trying to dilute any kind of case for change. And that, of course, makes it difficult then to agree on whatever way you want to take, So
yes, I think probably the easiest to agree on is just not to change at all.
Yeah, and of course,
right?
yeah. And then, what happens in change is you have always those who resist change because they have their vested interests or whatever. And then you have those who see the need for change. And actually, this makes 10 to 20% of each partnerships on the opposite part. And then you've got the big middle ground, those brave citizens who look left and right and think, well, do we need to change? Do we not need to change? What to do? They basically would go whatever way, but they need leadership. And leadership in law firms is not something which is very, very strong usually.
Okay, I get that. I understand. So obviously you have the both sides, strong push for change, a little bit a push against change, and then you have the big middle, which you could actually move into any direction with strong, firm leadership. Is that roughly correct in how you kind of see it sitting?
Yeah, and with leadership, and of course with this consensus building effort. Because even these partners in the middle ground, these what I call brave citizens, they of course need to be convinced. Lawyers are critical thinkers. Unless they are convinced, they won't do anything. So you need to really get them on board of this change effort. You need to build consensus on the need for change and how to change and what to change. And also, to a certain degree, what are the ground rules when we change, because changing is always difficult and always brings about uncertainty. So the question is, can we rely on something when we do this step,
So do you think that then the best approach is obviously finding the why to change, which is very important, but then also how you're going to change, what the efforts are, and you have to have all of this first before you even get out to that partnership and get everyone kind of trying to align? Or is it already early enough if you have the why and you figure out the rest together? Or is that
there's a certain logic when you realize what kind of change you need to do, where you can go. But of course, it's in the detail where it matters most. And it's in the detail where lawyers tend to look very, very closely because they know that's in the details.
Yes, I get that.
So it's not a given that you can change. Now, certainly, changing in a law firm context means especially realizing as a partnership that you have a common ground. And you start from a common ground, and this common ground is the need for change. I've been in situations called into law firms where, like management said, we need to change our profit sharing. And I looked at it and worked since 75 years, and I said, why change? Why changing a running system which provides, well, it's maybe not the best system, but it provides stability, and it was not questions by the partners. And you should not change just for a theoretical idea, that maybe there's something better out there. That's not a good reason for change.
Yeah. So you need to have a very solid reason for change, not just changing for the sake of change itself.
Yeah,
which
definitely.
Unfortunately do.
Yeah, and it should not be, it should not be kind of a political power play. There should be a real reason. And actually, what I found out is if you go to a partnership and there's a strong case for change and you lay it open, then you can agree on it. Partners are very curious minds, very entrepreneurial. So I have a lot of respect for these people, and they will adapt if you give them the opportunity to understand.
Amazing. I like that. So let's play this scenario where there is a really strong case for change. Most of the partnership is brought in, but then there's a few outliers which are just completely against it, and they're trying to put a roadblocker in. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, that's the typical case, actually.
Yeah.
It's quite the normal.
Good, perfect.
Yeah. And the point is, you always have people do not agree, especially among lawyers, and they are very good in arguing. So first of all, forget about 100%.
Yeah.
Think about 80%. If you have 80% on board, move on. Forget about the rest. That's the first tip. Secondly, it's very good to differentiate those who are against. Usually, there are three kind of people who are not in the core brave citizen kind of partnership group. That's one of all the sinners. The sinners are high performers who always do whatever they want. They do not respect any kind of ground rule. Yeah. Right. So sinners are very difficult because they bring in a lot of money. They are very often rainmakers, but they don't play by the rule. Yeah. So these are difficult people, and here you must take usually very strong initiatives and methods. Then you've got the saints. The saints are people, they're very nice. Everybody loves them. They are so collaborative, but they have such a weak business case. And they fear change because they are weak people. They fear always change. Whatever comes across their desk, ooh, what is it?
Okay.
So these two people are the most difficult outliers. And then there are the so-called stars. That's rainmakers who do everything right, but have vested interests. So they want to have it their way. Okay? Very simple.
I get it. Yes.
Very simple. And if I have to coach a leadership, I always would tell them, start with the stars. Okay? Get aligned the stars on that track and make sure that they agree and that they understand. Then tackle those sinners. And the point is, you need to have just one of those sinners where you really expose them for their wrongdoing. And this sends the signal to everybody in the firm. Don't play this way. Okay? So you make an example. Use something which is so obviously not correct that everyone in the firm understands that's not the way we do things here. Yes. So actually, you need to try to shift the ground rules and make sure that those outliers do not dominate the game. And that's culture. Culture is so difficult because you cannot see it when you're inside a system.
Yes.
But culture is what actually determines how everybody is allowed to behave.
Yes.
And that is where usually we as consultants come in, because we can see the culture from the outside, and we can clearly, easily see what's wrong with the system and with the behavior of people, and how should partners, managing partners, especially or leadership, behave in order to change culture.
I love it. I love that. And what is one tip? We don't want to go into too much detail. What is one of these tips you would give that managing partner, or this leadership, on how to kind of behave to change the culture? Just one thing. What would you tell them?
The first thing is that leadership is part of the system. Yeah. So they usually support what is wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. They somehow involuntarily support what's wrong in the system. They complain about things which are wrong in the system, but at the same time, they do everything to uphold it.
Yes.
That's a dialectic again. And then they cannot see, they do not see themselves. So the first invitation is to reflect their own behavior, how they do everything for the firm not to change. Management very often proclaims, I want the firm to change this and that way. But if you look at their actions and their words, then you suddenly realize they do everything to the contrary. Why so? What is their vested interest? What is their position in the firm? Whatever. And that's the first thing. So it's not a specific tip I would give them, except start looking into the mirror.
Start looking at yourself and actually see if it might even be that you are still within that system actually driving into the wrong direction. Yes, you say that you want to change and we need to change and this is what we want to do, but actually then your behaviors, your actions go into the opposite side. And if you feel that this is happening, then this is when probably the first way of change can even happen, realization that, okay, I have to change myself as well. And with that, I can then actually lead with example to then help the partnership itself change.
Yeah,
Is that
that's right.
Yeah, perfect.
Change starts, change. If the leadership is not ready for changing itself, then nothing will change.
Nothing will change. Yeah. Have you ever seen it that the change came from the bottom up instead of from the top down? Has that happened?
Well, where does the case for change come from? That's, could be from every angle. Could be inside, outside. Could be from bottom, from top, wherever.
Yeah.
The validated case for change is, once it is established, it doesn't matter where it does come from.
Yeah.
But the good thing about partnership, that's very important, and that's different to your corporates, is all those partners are out there in the market. They understand what's happening, and they bring back this intelligence.
Yes.
And they say, look, I feel that we are in a shifting situation here. And the ability of the partnership is to hear what these individuals have to say and look into the matter and decide whether this constitutes a case for change or not. But that's, in my view, that's the strongest and very good way of the partnership model, is that the people who are the decision makers also are those who talk to the clients. Yeah. And this brings up a very stable, if you want, strategic situations, because these law firms tend to change very, very little every day.
Yeah.
And as long as they change, everything is fine. But when they got stuck, when they don't hear what partners have to say, when they don't look at competition, when they don't look at the client situations, this is when they got stuck, and when they need an outside consultant like me, helping them actually to realize, oh, we've got a case for change and probably should do something.
Yeah, I like it. So this will be probably one of the tips, or one of the secrets for a successful partnership, which is really creating this environment for partners to having a voice, where they are heard, even where people listen to what is happening, what they have to report, if they feel things are changing, and we might have to look into this and might have to change with whatever change came through from the market, if it's internal, if it's from competition, wherever it comes from. So one of the really important parts is that communication, that open line, and that someone actually listens and acts on that. Would that be one of the things we say is one of the secrets of a successful partnership?
I would say yes. And of course, one of the problems is then with the size of partnership, because if you have 10 partners, that's probably the normal mode, how they operate. If you have 100 partners, how to organize the process where the intelligence gathered by partners is placed in the middle of the partnership and becomes a subject of discussion. How to organize actually large groups. And lawyers are not used to handle large groups. What they would do is what they've learned at university, put everybody in the room and have one guy standing in front and telling them what to do. That's not how strategy work or change works. So the challenge is to have the right methodology in place for large groups of partners to get heard and discuss what's happening. Very important.
I like that. That's a very tricky part. So let's jump into a different one, which is all around collaboration itself. When, I'm working a lot with law firms all around the world, and one of the big things what I've seen is they don't collaborate as much as they should, probably, especially because if looking into the value of collaboration and how much revenue potential is in collaboration, I'm just always shocked to see on how little partners in different practices would actually collaborate on matters together and also sharing their clients. Let's talk a little bit more about that collaboration piece. Why is that such a big problem? Why does collaboration not happen naturally within law firms?
Yeah, well, there are different aspects to it. One is actually there's a lot of collaboration out there, and that's so fascinating about law. Worldwide, all lawyers can cooperate at any given time for any kind of client and any kind of matter 24 hours the day. They can and they do.
Yeah.
So I see enormous amount of collaboration out there. It's incredible. If a client has got a problem, say in Germany, he needs to fix something in Australia, it's 2 calls away. He calls his lawyer, and his lawyer will call somebody in Australia.
Yeah.
And this is there are already firmly established collaboration mechanism in this industry, which provide this kind of service all around here. This is either in structured way by like big law firms, these big international commercial law firms, by network of law firms who are also somewhat structured, or by individual contacts. But it always works. You will never find a client who does not get an adequate kind of advice on condition he's able to pay.
Yeah. So we're just talking about lawyers collaborate a lot. They collaborate with their clients. They collaborate externally. As you said with that example, they need advice in Australia from Germany, 2 calls away, and they can organize all of that. So they're great collaborators externally facing. So what about internally facing and collaboration internally between the different practice groups?
Yeah, that's another matter. And this depends a lot about culture in a law firm. Yeah. That is whether there is a culture of collaboration or not so much collaboration.
Yeah, okay.
Very, very simple. Very often, if you have really a difficult client matter and you're not specialized in, normally you would use a partner somewhere else. But of course, there are firms who do not support this kind of behavior. Then there are firms who are supporting this kind of behavior. And what is quite clearly on the top of the market, you rather find those firms who enhance and support this kind of behavior.
Yeah.
So this is really something which has to do about the market position. The smaller the law firm are, the lower they are on the market, the less there is usually collaboration, because the lawyers scramble for the business case.
Yeah, and is there a big need for collaboration, because they probably don't work on these very complex legal matters where collaboration is required? Is that also the difference, or is it just primarily just because there's no case?
Of course, the complexity of the case has a strong impact on this. But usually as a lawyer, you come across a lot of different clients with a lot of different needs. So usually you would need to use specialists somewhere at any point.
Yeah,
collaboration is a culture thing, very much. Is there a ground rule which says whatever happens, we respect specializations and we will always give the case to the best suited guy? Or is there a culture which says do whatever you want, ignore whatever people you have around you? These just to illustrate the opposite kind of.
Okay, so those are the different cultures. So for someone who feels like they don't have a very good collaborative culture and they want to kind of improve collaboration within their partnership, they are trying to go up market a little bit more, work on more complex deals. They know and understand the need for collaboration. How should they go about it? How can they decide to change towards a more collaborative culture?
Well, there are two angles to it. One is a purely economic one. We know that once we increase the collaboration across practice groups, the turnover with a client will increase. Very simple. So, and the lawyers are very perceptive actually to economics. for whatever reason, they love to earn more.
Who wouldn't? That works well. So if you always look with economics and you can show that, okay, this would increase money overall, but also for you.
Yeah.
Making a good case.
So there's statistics around, and usually within a law firm, there's enough data, but there's nobody who cares about the data.
Yeah.
And lawyers would question the validity of the data anyway. So
that's true.
And the second question probably is whether there's enough suffering.
Yeah.
if you're a good guy and you find a lot of complex cases and you always are in need of collaboration, but you don't get anything back, you start to question your collaborative mood.
Yes.
And if there are enough people who say, well, we need to collaborate more, I've got so much interesting business and I'm fed up with doing it all myself because others don't collaborate with me, then there's a case for a change established.
Yeah.
So what I would do usually in these kind of situations, I would look for how many cases are there for really increasing the collaboration, not in theory, in practice. Yeah. How many partners are there who would love to collaborate more and would see the value in specialization? So that's very simple. In my work, I would have a partnership in one room, like cleared off all the chairs and put, say, on the right-hand side, all those who want more collaboration. On the left-hand side, who are happy as it is. And yet then you see the partnership, walking into different directions, and you suddenly see the majorities and the position. And then you can start negotiate, okay? What does do the people who need more collaboration, what kind of requirements do they have?
Yeah.
And what are those who think that everything is okay? What's their perspective? And then suddenly, people start moving, start reflecting on, well, maybe it's better to change and have more specializations. And then you come back to, okay, if I change, if I specialize more and collaborate more, what do I get in return? Yeah. Where is my certainty? Yeah. Who can guarantee that I don't lose out if I give away cases? That's about change. That's about the people are afraid of changing because they think I might lose out in this specific situations. So, but unless you do not have this discussion in the open, also about fear, not just about wishes and abstract possibilities, but about the fear of losing out in a specific situation and how to deal with it. What kind of contract do you need as a partnership to make sure that this will benefit everybody and not just some, right? Yeah. You come into a situation where you can change. And of course, it involves trust. Very often at this point in the discussion, you suddenly realize how much trust is there in the partnership or how little. Yes. Okay. And trust is it's the kind of fluid what makes the transaction works. Yes. So you need to do probably a lot of trust exercises, helping them to understand who they trust, why do they not trust, what could they do to enhance trust in the partnership. And when you're through this kind of exercise, then suddenly you see an increase in collaboration.
I love it. I love that. That is such a good and such a powerful exercise for people to do as well. Yeah. Like it seems simple in a way, putting someone in a room and just telling them, okay, let's see who wants to have more collaboration and who is happy where it is. And then let everyone kind of argue their case, which we've already established they're very good at arguing their case. And then you at least have this kind of collaboration and this communication happening right now, which then helps you to realize and build actually a case for change.
Yeah, and I have exactly a very good example for this kind of situation. I had a law firm actually in Vienna who the partnership was built around strong people, and everybody had his or her team, and everybody was kind of generalist, kind of silo organization. Yeah, and they realized that partners would do things they were not good at, but they would do it because they needed to feed their silo. Yes. So I made them realize the potential for growth. And we changed quite a lot, actually. The first thing we changed is we said, we fix the profit share of everybody for the next 3 years in the relationship how it has been as of now. Yes. Assuming that if the profit share the profit overall increases, everybody would benefit, but nobody would benefit specifically. Everybody would benefit in the same relation as before. Yeah. And the second thing is we said we build specialization. Yeah. And every client matter needed to go to the best specialized guy. Imagine.
Yeah.
So they shifted around 80% of the cases in the firm. They went to their clients and said, you've got a new lawyer, it's this one, he's better specialized. Can you imagine?
So how was that? How was that received by the clients?
Wonderful. They loved it. And
yeah,
the profit increased by 300% over 3 years.
That's incredible.
It was like, wow.
Incredible. Yeah.
Because then also, you know, clients realized, oh, they are better suited for specialized cases. I can give them more demanding cases. Yeah. They are quicker because before they were slow, because they were not specialized. Now they're 10 times quicker. I can give them more work, you know? So, and we, at the same time, we introduced the better controlling, especially looking at the utilization of people. So we could see how utilization went up. And very simple. And if you have some leverage in your firm, you know, the driver on profit is easy.
Amazing. Wow, that is such a good story. It's such a strong case, right?
Yeah,
obviously you never know before making that change to really see that large of an impact, but you have done it before, you have seen it, and 300% over 3 years is that's incredible.
It's incredible. Yeah, I love this story.
Any business, you know, that is like, wow.
But increasing profit by 100% is normal.
Yeah.
It's normal. If you change behavior and collaboration in your firm, you simply get double the profit out of it.
100%. 100%, you know, like.
There's a strong case.
Yeah, that is a very strong case. Like, even for someone who is not very strong into data and to numbers in that sense, but 100% just doubling it, I think that is a very, very strong case for it. And we have seen it ourselves, you know, when talking to firms, when they start growing, or the ones that are growing really quickly right now, they have a very good collaborative culture. And we can see that there's some of the newer firms, some of the younger firms, they're coming up, they're collaborating a lot, and they're growing so much quicker.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so collaboration is probably one of the most powerful things within the firm.
I very much agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay, so we have the channels of communication. What we said before is one of the secrets, which is really listening to partners and giving them the opportunity, which is one of the kind of important parts to even drive change and come up on what needs to be changed. Then also collaboration is just a very powerful vehicle for profitability, increased revenue, but also probably for the culture itself. If it is more collaborative, it's probably nicer to work in. Trust is very important, obviously, to facilitate that collaboration. This is needed. So probably another secret, obviously, is trying to create trust and do trust exercises, because that will lead then to a happier partnership and to a more collaborative partnership, which means more profit, which makes everyone happy again, right?
Well, happiness is, as you might know, not a criteria for a lawyer.
That is very true. But it
they're not really much after happiness. They are glad if they have a stable work environment, good client work, interesting client work, not too much disturbance by management or other partners. And
that's the world of happiness. I get that.
I guess they are happy if they are content.
I love that. So let's say, what would you say are some, let's go into the opposite. What would you say are some very obvious signs of a toxic partnership, of a toxic environment? What are some like such clear drivers? What is it what you see straight away when you go in and look at a partnership? Like, there's something very, very wrong. There's some either toxic people or it's a toxic culture. What are kind of some of these signs?
Yeah, well, very obvious one is people shout at each other.
Yeah.
Well, you've seen it, you know. The opposite is also true. People do not talk to each other anymore. I've been in partnerships where 2 or 3 partners don't talk with each other since 20 years.
Yeah, so too much arguing, or a little bit too aggressive arguing, or no communication at all. So these two opposites, very toxic.
Then, of course, fluctuations, especially if very good people leave, whether it's partners or senior associates or secretaries, whatever. When these people leave, it's a clear sign of a toxic partnership. Then the way they talk, the words they use, how aggressive they are. And lawyers can be very aggressive. That's a strength of a lawyer, the ability to be aggressive in certain situations.
Is that like competitiveness? Is that like more like this competitive nature? What lawyers have as well to just
also because sometimes you need to fight for a client. And you must simply fight for a client, and that's a quality. But it's not very helpful inside a partnership.
Yes, get that.
And I've got a lot of what I call frozen conflicts in partnership. That is, partners who have argued a specific case, for like a case for change, and others were against, etc. And instead of finding a resolve, they would argue so long and so hard that in the end they disliked each other. So a good case for change from opposite end could end in a kind of frozen conflict, and the whole partnership is, kind of unable to resolve this conflict and unwilling to do anything about it. But it does not help the firm to change. They get either the one case nor the other one. They're stuck in the middle, and these kind of frozen conflicts are quite usual in law firms because, especially men, they have a wonderful ability to ignore conflicts. It's strange, but I would suffer, but they simply say, well, that's part of our life. I need to carry on. I have my clients, I have my work. I don't care about the
leave it unresolved. Done. Leave it.
I think that
I've seen that many times as well. Actually, I get that, and this is just this new action, and it's like let's just ignore it and let's move on. Better things to do. Okay. So toxic is arguing too much and too aggressively, not talking at all. Then what was the other one? What you've just mentioned? We had
this frozen conflict kind of situations where you have, where you hear mini aggressions. Aggressions by words which are not strong enough to react to it, but which are basically always aggressions and which are bad for culture. Everybody in the firm likes, oh no, I don't want to talk to these people. There's a bad atmosphere, bad vibes, whatever. These situations always occur as well.
There's frozen conflicts, and it's always looking into the way of communication on what people say, how they say it. And then also when people start leaving, obviously you're good people, then you know that there's definitely something very, very toxic about the culture. There's just something wrong. Is there anything else you can think of?
No, that's much, right? The most visible signs. Of course, sometimes management can also be part of a toxic culture, especially managing partners who believe that they know everything and they that every partner is silly and only he knows or she knows. That's kind of a but what is good about management in law firms is these are not management, they are politicians. They are basically elected officials. So after a time they get not re-elected. So what? So that's a good thing, and that's definitely the advantage of a partnership model towards a corporate model, because in a corporate world, the toxic manager, you cannot do anything about it because he's been selected by the top, by the owners. But in a partnership, you simply do not re-elect him or her, and he's gone. That's a good thing about it.
Okay, that's a very interesting point. And what I've actually just recently read from the ABA, they have actually released on the reasons and why partners like lateral moves, why they happen and why partners leave. And I think one of the number one reasons why they left was actually lack in the belief of the management, that they don't believe in the management anymore, in the firm leadership, that they're going to the right direction, or that the strategy is kind of built out. They don't believe in that anymore. in lack of leadership, lack of direction and strategy. That was apparently the biggest reason for lateral partner moves. Do you see that the same?
Well, I do not believe so much in these surveys, because the arguments which come out there, it's what.
Always depends on who did it as well, right? It probably always depends, and if that argument really helps build their case of whatever service they're selling, then obviously obviously they promote that. I see it the same way.
Well, it's in my view, it's very simple. Either the high performers leave, and they probably leave because they don't think that the partnership moves quickly enough, changes quickly enough, and they do not see the ability to influence the speed of change. And the other ones are the underperformers, and the underperformers usually are made to leave, and they can complain about leadership, whatever, but.
Yeah, that's a different case. That's a very different case. Yeah, cool. Okay, I think we've actually spoken about a lot of different things today. Really good insights around how collaboration can help, how trust is important for collaboration, some of the secrets as well with communication and how important it is, but also in the same time, how communication is this indication of if you have a toxic culture or not. Because if the communication is very aggressive, lots of arguing, it's bad. No communication at all, very bad too. So communication is obviously a very, very important part. So we have the communication channels being heard, having good, healthy communication between the partners, building clear cases for change, not just change for the sake of change, then communicating that well with everybody. And then I think everyone will be on board, because if you make a good case, if you communicate it well, it should work. And then always just, again, trying to build trust, doing more trust exercises to increase collaboration, because that revenue potential and profitability potential with 300% over 3 years is just enormous. So those are kind of the different ways in what I can look at. That is a lot. So how can you help?
Who?
These law firms. Anyone who is now listening who thinks like, okay, I want to also look into either increasing collaboration, need help with change. We want to change. We're trying to build a case for change. How can I reach out to you, and how can you?
Well, the first thing is give me a call, and that is look into the question whether there really is a case for change.
Yeah.
Because, as I said, even management might be misled here whether there is one. I know of an international law firm. They do a lot of legal tech, modern technology use, etc. And there's always a yearly presentation at the partnership meeting, and the partners don't understand what it is about. So they have agreed on having always somebody stand up and say, "What is it?" So the whole presentation is called the "What is it" presentation. Okay, so if this kind of firm leadership would call me and ask me, why are the partners always asking about the "What is it" presentation? I think the case to change the case to change is clear, right?
I love that a lot. So, Christoph, I will definitely include your contact details, the link to the homepage, to your LinkedIn, also in the comments somewhere, so people can reach out to you and ask you for help. So any law firm, do you work with any sizes from the smaller all the way to the large ones? Do you have some?
No, I usually work with mid-sized law firms. That is like starting usually with like 7, 8 partners up to like 100, no more.
Yeah, perfect.
I don't go to UK or US for very international work. I've done this and I didn't find it very rewarding. No, I'm very glad to. I can be found on NEXL. I can be found on NEXL. So everybody can see me and my details there. So I'm very glad to get in touch with anybody who wants to have a chat.
So anyone who wants to change and needs help with change, reach out to Christoph. He can help. Very, very experienced, very knowledgeable. Amazing. Thank you again, Christoph, for sharing all of these insights with us today. That is it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It was big fun talking to you, Phil.
Thanks, Christoph.
Good
Perfect.
luck.
Yeah.
Bye.